Welcome back to the UV Lighthead online video show, sponsored by Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. That's Light Made Easy, the Retrofit Kings, and we're here to talk about the UV Lighthead.
That's right. You titled it off at UV. So we've had a lot of discussions, had a lot of different people on the show, and a lot of recent developments continue to come out with UV lighting. It's a hot topic, so we got to keep on it. And what we've talked about, and what I've seen on my end, is there's really three different ways you can deploy UV lighting. You can have a mobile unit that you wheel around. You can have a fixture in the ceiling that has light and UV, or just UV, or you can put it through the HVAC system. I would say that's a way to sum it up, at least quick and easy, is those are your three options. I know there's little tweaks here and there, but let's say those are the three. We've talked to people that have said mobile is the way to go. It's easy, sense of safety, security is that you can unplug it, you can move it around. We've talked to people that said through the air, HVAC is the way to go. The light will never hit people, so it'll never be a concern. It'll go through the air. And then you have talked to people, and we have, but you've talked to somebody recently that convinced you fixtures might be the way. Give us why.
So I'm trying to remember the term. It's a terminology right now. I'm kind of on the spot, and I'm like a person in the headlights. Upper air disinfection. That's what it is. Okay. So I've talked about it a couple times. I don't think so on Lighthead, but I came across some really old catalogs from the 70s and 80s, lighting catalogs, and one of them was disinfection by UV radiation. And it wasn't a catalog. It was an instructional manual. Okay, printed, I think, 1987, 1985. So the science of UV lighting is not something that needs to be developed. They know, we already know how UV works, okay? And long before SARS-CoV-2, people were using UV to disinfect upper air. And the way they would do it is they would create a fixture which had very tight baffling on it, which would be inverted up in the room and cast light across the ceiling, UV light, okay? And it would cast from either side of a room or whatever. And what this would do is air naturally circulates through a room constantly. And a lot of these were primarily deployed, like the number one application was tuberculosis wards, okay? Where people were suffering from tuberculosis and nurses and doctors had to come in the room and treat them and all that sort of stuff. And tuberculosis and SARS-CoV-2 have a lot in common. It's passed through these droplets in the air. So the SARS-CoV-2 lives, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, lives in the air. It can float around and then go into your nose. You can breathe it in, okay? And if somebody's sneezing in the corner or sick inside of an enclosed space, right? That's an area. If somebody's in a waiting room of a medical clinic, and they're coughing and sneezing, or they're in a hospital emergency ward and they're coughing and they're sneezing, what's happening is they're infecting the space with whatever it is that they have, tuberculosis, whatever. The further you are away from them, whatever, they wear a mask, they cover their face when they sneeze, whatever happens, people try to mitigate this. One of the very effective mitigations that's been known for decades and decades is this upper air disinfection. So where you're casting that dangerous UV light across the ceiling above the height of a very tall human, so nobody can go up there and get hit by the UV light. And then the air circulates through the room, and as it circulates up into that space, it gets the viruses and bacteria get deactivated. This is known to be effective. Now, is it a panacea? No, it's not a panacea. But when I was speaking to this gentleman, this guy's one of the world's number one experts on the subject, he speaks very clearly that this is not even an engineering issue. It's not a science issue. It's not a research issue. It's not an engineering issue. It's a matter of deploying it in the field, right? And so that's not surface disinfection. That's upper air disinfection. Surface disinfection is where you get you have a much more much higher chance of causing problems for people, where the solution is less effective than is not actually contributing to the final solution, because people are going blind or getting sunburns and this sort of stuff. They're being exposed to dangerous UV. So upper air disinfection is an extremely effective way to reduce pathogens in the air, and we know it. We've known it for decades. You don't hear about it much. What you hear about more is surface disinfection. Surface disinfection using wands, using robots to go into rooms, devices you push into a room and leave and turn on, and this sort of thing, right? That's another play. But if the surface is not sanitized first, then the disinfection is not as effective, right? So if you don't, sanitation is cleaning, right? Get a soap and rag or some chlorine. You can disinfect and sanitize with a cleaner that kills bacteria, but sanitizing is the act of removing the debris and the grime and the dirt off the surface. Disinfection is the act of killing pathogens, or rendering, I don't know what whatever, killing is good for the Light Down on the show. There's another word they use, these science guys, but they say deactivate. We're deactivating it, whatever. So it goes on there, and disinfection is the killing of it. So, we can disinfect air effectively, safely, and without any issues. There's even ones where they do a double shot. So they do on the ground and upper air, lower air and upper air is in the catalog. And so lower air would be less, but people would be a little bit less, because what if someone was wearing shorts, right? You have to wear pants when you come in here. Why? Because of the UV light. Whoa, hang on. What's happening? Right? That's a little more difficult to manage, but you can do lower and upper air. So there's like this space between 2 feet and 7 feet where no UV light is shining. That's an option. That's something that you could do, and people know it works.
And you're saying doing this while someone's actually in the space?
Yeah, you're doing it constantly. Yeah. Like for me, it's a no-brainer. And I know I threw my sunglasses at the camera, and so many of you watched it. And one guy wrote me, says, "You're an angry man." You're an angry man. Okay. So maybe I am. I think someone that writes that's an angry man too, though.
Maybe.
So, but so this is in a waiting room of a medical office. That's got to be a no-brainer, man.
To keep it consistent and have upper air is what you're saying is the best of those three. If you're going to pick one, it's that. What do you do? Surfacing?
Yeah. What's that? Sorry.
Surfacing. On the surfacing, clean.
So a lot of times the air comes to rest on the surface. Like the pathogens in the air come to rest on the surfaces, right? Surface disinfection is needs more research, right? And the 220 nanometers or whatever that they talk about, they're very hopeful that there's not longer term damage caused by that. They're very hopeful, but they're not. It's not ready it's not ready to be deployed. Upper air is ready. Do it right now. There's no issue with it at all. There's no engineering issues. There's no science issues. No research issues. It can be done right away.
There's a cost issue.
Wow. I mean,
we got to live with it.
What's interesting to me is like the only person that could be possibly affected by this is someone that went to paint the ceiling. You see, it's always the accidents and always occur when somebody does something in a space which is extremely unusual. Right? So the guy that changes the light bulbs or the gal that changes the light bulbs might know that the UV system has to be turned off. Right? Or maybe you have a reverse occupancy sensor in the space that's upside down that doesn't see the ground but only sees the top area. And so it switches off when somebody's up there. Maybe that would work. But it's always those unknown situations where someone gets hurt. And so for me, we're going to paint the ceiling. Great. Okay, yeah, Jimmy, go do it. $200. Here you go. He's painting the ceiling. Next thing you know, he's blind. because he's up there for a long time, right? Because the painter's going to be up there going like this, and you can't really see UV light. It's not visible. So he doesn't even know what's happening. Right? So I think that's where it's those situations where the unexpected happens and somebody's in that space for a long time and they don't know anything about UV light. And so that's the concern with upper air. With surface, I mean, with a cart you're pushing around or a wand, yeah, I mean, people that are operating that cart can be safe. And they can be taught and trained. But with the fixtures in the ceiling, I don't know how you deal with that at this point. That's a tough one. That's a tough one to deal with. I know that there's guys out there that, are 100% certain that the sensors work and everything's tied together and there's a fail safe and da 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 da. But I've been in the lighting industry for a long time. And if I had 99.9% operation and commissioning on all my sensor systems, I'd be a pretty happy camper, man.
Yeah. You need 100% in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then, that's the issue with the surface. Boom! There, I threw my sunglasses again. Folks, Light Ted Online Video Show, the UV Light Ted Online Video Show, sponsored by Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com.